Carlos Nelson with Cascade Media Group, and tonight we're on our political channel, and we have Miss Gail McCann Beatty. And without further ado, uh, Gail, welcome to the program. I'd like for
Thank,
you to talk about uh, a little bit about who you are and what you do down at the county.
okay. Thank you for having me. Like you said, I'm Gail McCann Beatty. I am the Director of Assessment for Jackson County. I am born and raised right here in Jackson County all of my life. Went to high school here. I'm a graduate of what is now Pembroke Hill. Um, I have served my community not only as assessor, but prior to that, I served in the Missouri General Assembly for 4 terms. Um, I my background is appraising. My father was an appraiser, and I tell people I've been appraising since elementary school because when most kids, their parents picked them up or they went to daycare, I went with my dad to measure houses. And so I really just grew up in this industry. When I graduated from college, we hopped on a plane and left the airport and went straight to the office. We had our own real estate company and we did appraising and property management and real estate sales. And so this is really appraising is my passion. When I got the opportunity to become director of assessment, that was an opportunity to not only take my passion for wanting to help the community, but it took into account both my work experience as well as my education background, and gave me the opportunity to try to do some good. When I really realized the county had some serious problems, we were faced with uh, staffing shortage probably doesn't even truly describe it. We only had 56 people in a county of over 300,000 parcels. In addition to that, we had a computer system that no longer functioned and its vendor didn't even service it anymore. I was faced with, I had one commercial appraiser in the department. And even worse than that, the department was located on a mezzanine in the courthouse and had no access to the public when our primary objective is to serve the public. And so I set out on a course from the time I got there. How do we begin to address the fact that our properties are severely undervalued? Our schools are suffering because of this. And how do we make sure that everyone is paying their fair share and that no one is having to pay more than they should?
Well, I don't know that much about uh, the property taxes and some of the issues per se, but one thing I do know, because I've had experience with Jackson County because I was a general contractor, that uh, the machine moves slow. And from what you have said about the time that you've come in, how many staff did you have?
We had 56, and that
Talk about the
size just
parcels because we talked off camera a little bit. Talk about that part of your job when you got there, where things were from a staffing point of view, equipment point of view, and so forth.
right. So in a county that has 300, a little over 300,000 parcels, you really should have a staff probably somewhere between 125 and maybe 135 people. And probably in the early 2000s, the county did have over 100 staff. And then they had a big layoff. And so by the time I got there, the staff was down to 56. We had very few appraisers. And as I mentioned, we only had one commercial appraiser. We simply didn't have the staff to properly do the job that needed to be done. And then to add insult to injury, we had a computer system that literally did not function. It did not do the things that it was intended to do. And the county had pretty much abandoned it for years. It was probably a 20-year-old system. And so my task then was to figure out one, I came in only 5 months before it was time to do reassessment again. So, how do we get through the 2019 reassessment? And then, two, what do we do to improve staff size, to get a new computer system, to make sure that we are indeed reassessing the properties the way they should be?
So, uh, what else do you do as part of your responsibilities?
As I mentioned, our main responsibility is the reassessment. Um, People don't realize that we also not only real property, but we also handle personal property, your vehicles, um, boats, cars, trucks, animals, all of those things. We handle that as well. We process the deeds that are filed through the Recorder of Deeds office. We maintain the information relating to special assessments. Um, there is a whole litany of things that happen within the assessment department. And then, of course, we work very closely with our GIS department to make sure that we have maps that are available to the public. We also work closely with the collection department. What people don't understand is that the county is really a large collector. The money that comes into the county, only about 7 cents on the dollar actually stays with the county. The majority of the money that we take in is what funds our schools, our cities, fire districts, water districts, things like that, our libraries, our community colleges, the blind pension fund. Those are the agencies that get the majority, and our school districts get about 60% of what comes in every year.
So, the the big hula and the big storm is over these property taxes, but I just see the recall as connected with the property taxes, but it's not connected to the property taxes. As far as I'm concerned, recalling Frank White, that's going to change the property taxes. I'm
It
asking you because I don't know. I'm not trying to even be funny.
it's not going to change the property taxes. Um, Neither I nor the county executive created the real estate market that we have today.
That's
Um,
what I'm talking about.
Neither one of us was here 10, 15, 20 years ago when the reassessment processes weren't being done properly and properties weren't being valued the way they should be. Fast forward, we hit a perfect storm. We are trying to get the properties valued as they should be, and we have just an absolute out of control market. And it's not just in Kansas City, it's happening all over the country. And just closer to home, looking at our state, when you see that the state tax commission has told over 80 jurisdictions that they have to increase their property values, you realize that it's not just Jackson County. This is just something that is happening all over. And it is not the county executive's fault. It is not my fault. I am simply trying to follow the state statutes, which tell us that we have to have everyone on at market value. And you might ask, why is that important? It's important because you want to make sure that everyone is only paying their fair share and not more. And unfortunately, what we're seeing now is that legislation is being passed not only at the county level, but at the state level with the intent of preventing assessors from doing their jobs. And we're starting to see these artificial caps being put on things. And what happens Your taxing jurisdictions set their budget. They have to bring in so much money. If I lower your value, they're going to raise the levy. It doesn't mean that if I lower your value, you're all of a sudden not going to pay as much in taxes. That is probably one of the biggest misconceptions. The other misconception is that if I put a cap, let's say the county legislature just passed an ordinance to cap commercial properties. What that is going to do, it's going to help those commercial properties, but that tax burden that should be on those commercial properties is now going to be passed on to our residents. And that's not fair.
I don't
So
think
that's,
the residents understand that.
I don't think they understand that at all. And that's why it is so important that everyone is on at market value. That is the only way to be assured that everybody is paying that portion that they should.
All right. I think you said a mouthful. Do you have any closing statements that you would like to let our public know?
I think the public needs to understand is that my job is the distribution of that burden, but it's your taxing jurisdictions that actually set the tax rate. And this is the time of year that they are actually doing that. And they're having their meetings. Um, I encourage the public to take a closer look and visit their school district meetings and their city meetings so that they understand what those budgets look like, how those budgets are being spent, and understand why the tax rates are where they are. And once you understand that, you'll have a better understanding of the job that I do, which is simply putting the value on the properties.
With that say, what I would say to our community, information applied is power. Now she's giving you some information. Now, are you going to apply it at the ballot box or not? So, as we always say on our closing, when you invest in your community, you're really just investing in yourself. Good night.
This is brought to you by Kansas City Business Association, working to improve our community.